An American activist was just killed in the West Bank. They were killed by an IDF member, an IDF sniper. Now, this story is getting a lot of buzz, and a lot of people are up in arms about this. And it makes me wonder, just a little over a week ago, the Biden administration released a statement about their condolences for the Israeli American hostage that was killed in Gaza. So far, and I've been checking this, so far, I have not seen a statement released from the Biden administration about the American woman that was just killed in the West Bank, of all places, by the way, not Gaza, in the West Bank by the IDF sniper. This speaks to the hypocrisy from our administration. It speaks to this idea that if you are killed by Hamas or you're killed by the IDF, there seems to be some type of loyalty from the American government towards the side of Israel. So if Israel is the one that killed you, the U.S. government will make excuses for it, which they're currently doing right now. At least Antony Blinken is. But if you were killed by Hamas or someone in Iran, the U.S. government offers the condolences to the family. But when Israel does it, we need an investigation. We need to look into that. Don't believe me? Check out this clip here. Crazy story. Again, American activists killed in the West Bank. Let's get into it.
Tonight, an American among the latest casualties of the Middle East conflict. The U.S. State Department confirming Ayşenur Ezgi Egi, a 26-year-old Turkish-American activist, was killed in the West Bank. Eyewitnesses say she was shot by the IDF while participating in a protest near Nablus.
Participating in a protest near Nablus. I'm going to fast forward ahead here for just a second, just to make sure we don't get, okay. So this was a protest. And from what I read, this was a peaceful protest. And she was just shot in the head. It reminds me when the Palestinian American journalist, Shireen, she was shot. Remember, they shot her. And they were like, oh, no, we need to look into that. It's always, we need to look into it when Israel does it. When Hamas does it, we don't need to look into it. We just know it's fact. Let's continue.
Against expanding Israeli settlements.
We came here and the peaceful demonstrations was violently oppressed by tear gas, by live ammunition.
Fellow activist Jonathan Pollock says Egi just arrived in the country on Tuesday and says he was there when she was shot.
I heard someone calling my name in English saying, we need help, help us. I put my hand under her head to try and stop the bleeding.
Egi was a recent graduate of the University of Washington. Nablus's governor turning his anger directly on President Biden. Biden, these American bullets that you sent to the Israeli occupation have killed your citizens. This is the third American killed in the West Bank this year.
Pause for a second. This is what a lot of people may not be aware of. She is not the first American to be killed there, the third one to be killed there. But according to the Biden administration, you wouldn't even know that was even happening. And the reality is what that gentleman just said there. Yes, these are American weapons that were given to the IDF, and it was used to kill an American woman. Now, I paid close attention to the way the corporate media is discussing the story. I noticed they continue to stress a Turkish American woman. They want to put the Turkish in there so that you don't have as much sympathy or empathy. It doesn't matter. She's an American citizen, and she was killed there. Now, where's this same type of condolences and this same type of stress and worry that the Biden administration had for the Israeli hostage who was killed? Where's that same type of sentiment towards this young woman? They don't have it because she was killed by Israel. And there's no way, there's no walking away from this, fam. There's no walking away from this. Those are U.S. weapons that killed this woman. Shot her right in the head. That is not Israel defending itself. That is murder. It's just, it boggles my mind how this even needs to be explained. A peaceful protest. The gentleman who was with her right there telling you he was there. And Israel has done this before. A couple of years ago, there was another peaceful protest. And Israel, they started shooting. The IDF started shooting at the protesters' feet. They shot this woman in the head. Listen to what Antony Blinken has to say.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken said the U.S. is still gathering information on today's shooting.
I just want to extend my deepest condolences. We deplore this tragic loss.
Israel's military said in a statement that soldiers responded with fire after people hurled rocks at them, saying the incident is under review.
Even if someone did throw rocks at them, you do not respond to a rock with a gunshot to the head. And according to the protesters, that's not the sign of the story that they're telling. Now, some people are like, why were they there? Let's say why they were there. They were there protesting the expansion in the West Bank. I don't believe those protesters threw rocks at them, but even if they did, the response to that is not a gunshot to the head. I think that the IDF is lying again as usual to excuse their behavior for killing this woman. So they can say, well, we had to defend ourselves because they threw rocks at us. No, what is happening in the West Bank is 100% Israeli settler aggression, taking over people's homes, the land expansion. They're the ones being violent to the Palestinian people. But if you notice, the Biden administration is very hesitant to talk about the West Bank. They're very quiet about that because when it comes to the West Bank, you can't say Israel is going in because they have to defend themselves. Hamas is not in the West Bank. So pay attention to that. Notice how quiet they are about this. If anyone supports this administration, think about this. Your vote for Kamala Harris is a vote for this. Your vote for Donald Trump is a vote for this. Because both of them have admitted they're going to continue funding Israel. They're not going to condition any aid to Israel. They're not going to hold Israel accountable. So voting for Donald Trump and voting for Kamala Harris is a vote for this. You can try to wash it and rinse it to make yourself feel better, but that is a vote for that.
And Lester, this latest death comes as the Israelis wrap up a major 10-day counterterrorism operation in the West Bank. The Palestinians said has killed 39 people.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and.
Okay, so I want to go to this article here because this is a doozy. Like, don't let them sleep on this issue. Do not let them sleep on this issue. Like I said, I checked again today, no statement from Biden or Kamala Harris about this American woman that was just killed in the West Bank by the IDF, sniper style. Now, this video will air Monday. Maybe by Monday, there may be a response, but I do know when the Israeli American hostage was killed, they responded very quickly. Here's something here from World Socialist website. The U.S. citizen killed in the West Bank by Israeli forces. According to medical personnel, she was shot in the head and died shortly after she was rushed to a hospital in Nablus. A report by the BBC said that Dr. Nafa, head of the Rafidiyah Hospital, where Miss Eji, I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly, was admitted, confirmed that a U.S. citizen in her mid-20s died from a gunshot in the head. A fellow protester told the BBC that the demonstration on Friday was the first time the young woman attended a protest with the International Solidarity Movement, a pro-Palestinian group. The organization of foreign solidarity activists has been involved in work to protect Palestinian farmers in the West Bank from the attacks by Zionist settlers. Another thing that the Biden administration, the Trump administration doesn't want to talk about, the Zionist settlers. At 2:43 p.m., the Anadolu News Agency reported via X, Palestinian authorities informed Turkey that Turkish American activist Aysenur Iji might have been killed deliberately by snipers. The Washington Post reported that she was attending a protest opposing Jewish settlement expansion in the town of Bita in Nablus Granate. Excuse me, guys. I'm sorry if pronunciation isn't good. When she was shot. The Post report said, according to eyewitnesses, that when the ISM protesters arrived in Batia on Friday, Israeli soldiers were already deployed around a site where people were set to perform Friday prayers. As soon as the prayers were over, the soldiers fired tear gas and live ammunition. So everybody hear that? A peaceful protest. The IDF soldiers fired tear gas and live ammunition after the people stopped praying. Once again, there is one side here that has continued to be the aggressor. One side. And that is the side that our government is backing. That's the side our government is giving weapons to. It's not enough for a genocide. They got to kill Americans too. The U.S. State Department acknowledged her death. Department spokesman Matthew Miller said Washington is urgently gathering more information about the circumstances of her death, and we'll have more to say as we learn more. So everybody notice this? When it comes to her death, because she was killed by the IDF, they need to gather the information, give them time to gather that information. But when the Israeli American hostage was killed, they didn't wait for them to gather information. They came out with statements immediately. The White House did not assign blame for the killing and called on Israel to investigate. The same talking points we continue to hear. Whenever it's Israel, they have to investigate. So they want Israel to investigate their own soldiers. National Security Council spokesperson Sean Savette said the U.S. is deeply disturbed by the tragic death in the West Bank. On a trip to the Caribbean, U.S. Secretary Antony Blinken deplored the tragic loss and said the government is intensely focused on getting those facts. They need to make sure they got all the facts before they issue a statement about this young woman. But they didn't need all those facts when they issued a statement about the Israeli hostage. This is a picture of her here. Turkey has also responded. Let me make sure I go back to this part here. Turkey's foreign ministry, he's saying here that she was killed by Israeli occupation soldiers in the city of Nablus, and Turkish president has responded, called the action barbaric. He also said something else too, which I don't know if they put that here, but he also said in another statement, he called on the other nations, the other Muslim nations, to rise up. He called on the other nations to rise up against Israel. Because remember, she's American, but she's also, you know, her ethnicity, she's from Turkey. So she's Turkish American, but she's an American citizen. So Turkey had some things to say about this as well. Jonathan Polak, an Israeli activist, again, Israeli activist, with ISM, who was at the protest with her, said he heard two separate shots of live ammunition, shot one after the other, and then I heard another shot. I found her lying on the ground beside the tree, bleeding from her head. I took her pulse. She had a very weak pulse. We called the ambulance. From there, we evacuated her to the village's medical center, where the doctor came into the ambulance and continued into the hospital, where they tried to resuscitate her, but failed. So again, this is an Israeli activist with that group. The ISM protester said after the tear gas and shooting started, the activists retreated down a hill about 200 yards from the town where the soldiers were stationed. We stood there for about half an hour. The soldiers took over a rooftop in the town, he said, calling it a controlling rooftop. She was in an olive grove, according to Polak and another ISM volunteer who spoke on the condition she be identified by her first name, Mariam, for fear of retribution. Speaking to Al Jazeera, the same witness said the army was on top of the hill and a sniper was on top of the roof. We were clearly visible to the army and there was nothing happening next to us. They just shot 2 live ammunitions. One hit something metal and one was directed to her head. As I've said before, ladies and gentlemen, Israel is falling apart. The behavior from the IDF is out of control. It is insane. And I've said before, it's not just Gaza. It's also the West Bank. It's also in Lebanon. It's also parts of Syria. When you go to vote this November, I want you to think about that. Because for the people who tell me, well, I don't care about what's happening to Palestinians or whatever, this wasn't a Palestinian. This was an American. You don't think that I would not put it past Netanyahu to attack Americans. They don't care. Anything to keep and maintain the apartheid genocidal state. So when you go to vote this November, I want you to think about that. I'll be supporting Jill Stein. Jill Stein has earned my vote. She's also not a genocidal maniac, and she's also in support of the Palestinian struggle. A vote for Trump, a vote for Kamala allows this to continue.